Welcome back to Inglés 4.0, the radio show. Let's go! Intermediate.
Hello and welcome back to the program. Welcome to the intermediate portion of class number 156. And as always, we'll start with a little review of yesterday's content. Yesterday we talked about the verb to let, which is permitir, to let. And we also, we were comparing, I was comparing a little bit this verb, the verb to let, with allow. And what we have to remember here is that in the case of let, we never follow let with to. So we never say let me to. No. Let me go. Let me do it, I said. Okay, and I gave you a bunch of examples of things that my parents didn't allow me to do when I was young. And I was here with Marissa, and Marissa told me all the things that they didn't let me do. So when I was young, my parents didn't allow me to drink beer. They didn't let me drink beer. They didn't let me drink beer. Do you think you should let your kids drink beer? I don't think you should let your kids drink alcohol, but I will admit that I think in North America, I believe we have more problems with alcohol abuse because the alcohol rules are very, very strict. And because the rules are strict, young people want to rebel. And I'm not talking about really young people. I'm talking about teenagers, people who are 17, 18, 19. In the United States, you can't drink alcohol until you're 21 years old, even beer. So what you have is people who are 19 and 20 who really want to drink alcohol. So they get a friend or someone that they know to go buy the alcohol. And when they get it, they drink as much as they can and they get sick. And they have problems with binge drinking. So a binge drinking is when you drink a lot on a limited number of occasions, but you drink a lot and way too much for your body. So I think in Europe in general, it's more common to have a glass of wine with your dinner, maybe every day even. But it's a reasonably small amount and at a reasonably steady pace. But the problem is when people get into binge drinking, where they're not used to drinking anything, and then they drink a lot of alcohol, all of a sudden, de repente, all of a sudden, and it shocks their body and they get sick. And I think, personally, I think that some of the rules, the laws in North America and the general feeling we have towards alcohol and the way we treat alcohol consumption maybe isn't the best. And I think maybe the European model of saying, okay, kids shouldn't drink alcohol, but maybe when you're 15, 16, 17, maybe if you have one beer or something, it's not going to be the end of the world. But anyway, the verb to let is what I was getting at, and I said, yes, my parents didn't let me drink beer. They didn't let me drink it. They didn't let me drive the car either. They didn't allow me to drive the car. They didn't let me drive the car. When I was young, my mother didn't allow me to throw stones. That's right, she didn't let me throw stones. She didn't let me throw. So no to. Okay, that's the trick. That's the most important thing. I also want to mention, and I mentioned this yesterday, but in case you didn't hear it, there's a common mistake of confusing the verb to let with the verb to leave. So to leave is salir, to exit a place, or also abandonar or dejar. You can leave something. I left my keys on the table. Not I let, but I left my keys on the table, which is the verb to leave. Okay? So we talked about that yesterday. This is just a little review, and we have lots of new material to cover today, so I want to move on. Let's take a look now at translation list number 56.
Translation.
All right, it is time for our translation list number 56 today. And as we get started, number one, we'll go through all of these. Number one, si no inviertes más dinero, el proyecto morirá. If you don't invest more money, the project will die. If you don't invest more money, the project will die. Number two, deja una propina del 15%. Leave a 15% tip. Leave a 15% tip. Propina, tip. Number three, o sea, el servicio no está incluido en el precio. In other words, o sea, in other words, the service isn't included in the price. The service isn't included in the price. Number four, deja que yo decida eso. Let me decide that. Let me decide that. Number five, he perdido 5 kilos en un mes. I've lost 5 kilos in 1 month. Month. Not month, but month. I've lost 5 kilos in 1 month. Number 6. ¿Cuál quieres? ¿Este o aquel? Which one do you want? This one or that one? Which one do you want? This one or that one? Number 7. ¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy? What's the date today? What's the date today? What's the date today? Number 8. ¿Mencionaron tu nombre en el artículo? Did they mention your name in the article? So make sure you're repeating out loud. I'm leaving a pause here so that you can repeat the sentences out loud, en voz alta, with me, out loud. Did they mention your name in the article? Number 9. Tienden a olvidar quién soy en esta empresa. They tend to forget who I am in this company. They tend to forget who I am in this company. Number 10. Voy a subir tu nivel de inglés. I'm going to raise your level of English. I'm going to raise your level of English. Now, not rise. Your level of English will rise, but I am going to raise it. I'm going to raise your level of English. Number 11. Mi abuela me dijo que la luna estaba hecha de queso verde. My grandmother told me the moon was made out of green cheese. Queso verde, green cheese. My grandmother told me the moon was made out of green cheese. Now, I could say my grandmother told me that the moon was made out of green cheese. That is optional here. Number 12, last but not least, ahora sé que no es verdad. Now I know it's not true. Now I know it's not true. Yeah. All right, good. Our translation list number 56. Only a few more lists. Not very many. We're moving along through the material here. Only a few more lists. We just have up to up to list number 60. So quickly approaching the end in terms of the translation lists. Be sure to study hard and take advantage of the list. They're a very powerful tool. Let's move on now and take a look at our word of the day.
Word of the day.
All right, it's time now for our word of the day. The word of the day today is maleducado, which in English we say rude. Rude. He's a very rude person. So it has nothing to do with his education. His education is formación académica. People can be very well educated, but extremely rude, right? They're totally unrelated. But rude, maleducado, is rude. Rude. Don't be rude. I don't like rude people. So it's an adjective. I don't like rude people. No. Okay, so as we move into class number 156, we see to bring up. So a phrasal verb here, bring up, which is sacar un tema, so we can bring up an issue or a topic. So to make something appear, for example, in conversation, or also criar, un niño, to bring up a child. I was brought up in Canada. I was brought up in Canada. I was brought up in a small town. I wasn't brought up in a big city. I was brought up in a small town. Were you brought up in a city or in a town? Were you brought up in a city? Were you brought up in Madrid or were you brought up in Barcelona? I was brought up in a town. When people say in English, "Where are you from?" we typically are referring to the place where you spent the majority of your childhood. In other words, where you were brought up, which may or may not be where you were born. I was born in a town called Digby, but I was brought up, I was raised, I was brought up in a town called Liverpool. My parents still live there. And if someone asks me where I'm from, I'll say that I'm from Liverpool because I was brought up there. So even though I wasn't born there, I say I'm from there. That's where I was brought up. Now with the other use, did I bring up a phrasal verb in the last class? Did I bring up a phrasal verb or any phrasal verbs? No, I didn't. I didn't bring up any phrasal verbs in the last class. Did the boss bring up the budget in the last meeting? Did he say, "Hey, all right, let's talk about the budget now"? Did he bring up the budget? No. Should we bring up computer problems with the technician if we have them? Maybe we should. Maybe we should bring up computer problems with the technician if we have them. Ask me if I've ever brought up computer problems with the IT people here in the company. Kyle, have you ever brought up technical problems, computer problems with the IT people? Yes, I have. In fact, just the other day, I was having problems accessing my email account, so I had to bring it up. Someone brought up a technical issue related to the course and related to the downloads of the audios. So I had a listener who wrote to me and said, "Kyle, I can't get the audios to work for a certain class." So I was able to, I had to contact and I had to bring it up with the technical people because I don't handle all the technical aspects. So I had to bring it up with the technical people and they were able to solve the problem. So if you have any problems, don't be afraid to bring up the problems. The best way to do it, you could email in through the website, and you could reach the technical people that way. Send a message in, or through your tutor, as long as you're a member of the course, and they'll solve those technical problems. We like to hear about them. Please bring them to our attention. Please bring up any technical problems that you may have. We want to make sure that you have access to all the content. Let's move on now and take a look at our vocabulary of the day.
Vocabulary of the day.
All right, it's time now for the vocabulary of the day, our 5 words of vocabulary. Lectura is the first word, lectura. This is reading. Reading. I often do readings with my students in class. I give them readings. I give them things to read, and it's a reading. I say, today we're going to do a reading. Okay. Recibo. Recibo. This is a receipt. Receipt. So a receipt is proof that you've already paid. A receipt is not requesting payment. A receipt is proof that you've already paid. You get a bill, and then after you pay the bill, you get a receipt. Or you have an invoice, and then you pay the invoice, and you have a receipt. Envío de mercancías. This is a shipment. 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 Shipments often go in ships. They don't have to go in ships, but they often do. They may travel across the ocean in a ship. So I suppose, I'm not familiar with the history of this word, but I suppose it comes from the idea of traveling by ship, about a shipment, un envío. And we have the verb to ship. Did you ship any shipments yesterday? No, I didn't ship any shipments. I didn't send any shipments. I didn't ship any shipments. I didn't ship any boxes or packages yesterday. Fuente, origen. This is source. 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 So where did it come from? What's the source? Interruptor. This is our last word. This is a switch. A switch. There's a light switch here in the studio. The lights are turned on by a switch. If I flick the switch, the lights will go off. I can switch them off, but they're on now. Although it's time for me to switch off this segment of the program because we're completely out of time, but I want to thank you for listening. I know we have a little bit more to do, some spelling, but we'll get back to that tomorrow. Same time, same place. I do hope you'll join me. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.